Imagine for a second that everything you think you know about your own body is, well, let's just say, a little bit outdated.
Or at least incomplete.
Yeah, maybe fundamentally incomplete. We usually think of ourselves in, biological terms, right?
It's the standard model.
It's the standard high school biology model. We are sacks of cells, flowing blood, firing neurons, a bunch of chemical reactions. We're biology. We're organic.
That's the consensus reality, for sure. That is how we navigate the world. You go to a doctor, they treat the biology. You go to a therapist, they treat the brain chemistry. We look at the squishy parts.
Exactly. It's all very wet and organic. But what if that boundary between, say, faith and physics isn't just thin? What if it doesn't exist at all?
What if it was never there to begin with?
Right. What if we've been looking at the software of the soul, the feelings, the emotions, the psychology, but we've been completely ignoring the hardware?
It's a provocative way to frame it, for sure. We tend to keep science in one box. The box of facts, measurements, metal, and electricity.
The hard stuff.
The hard stuff. And we keep spirituality in another box, the box of feelings, metaphors, and these, invisible, intangible things.
Truly. And today I want to ask you and our listeners to smash those boxes together. I want you to imagine your body not just as a biological organism, but as a literal machine.
And you have to be careful with that word, right? Machine.
I do. And I don't mean it metaphorically like, oh, my brain is a computer or my heart is a pump. We use those lazy comparisons all the time.
Right. Those are just similes. They're linguistic shortcuts to help us understand a complex system.
Exactly. I mean, what if you are quite literally an electric motor?
Okay.
What if the principles that spin a fan blade are the exact same principles that keep you breathing, that animate your being? What if your entire existence is defined by voltage, resistance, and magnetic fields?
That is the core premise we're exploring today. It's a fascinating, if not, pretty radical shift in perspective. It challenges the very definition of what it means to be alive. It suggests that biology is just the surface layer, sort of the user interface, for a much deeper engineering reality.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're wading into some really, really deep waters. We are exploring the work of a researcher named Dr. Khaled Waleed, specifically from his project and YouTube channel, Almighty Covenant.
Which is Mithaq al-Khalek in Arabic.
Right, and I stumbled across this, and my jaw, it just hit the floor because it's so distinct. It's unlike anything we usually cover.
It really is. And just to set the stage here for everyone, Dr. Waleed isn't offering what you might call a traditional theological commentary.
Not at all.
Usually when you study scripture, you're looking at history, grammar, maybe some ethics or poetry. You're looking for moral lessons, for narrative. He's doing something quite different.
What does he call it?
He calls it 3D thinking, or intellectual three-dimensionality.
Right. And when I first looked at the source material, I thought, okay, 3D thinking, is this about perspective?
Yeah.
Seeing things from multiple angles. But he's being very, very literal. He is performing what he calls an informational mapping.
A mapping, I like that term.
He's taking the hard principles of modern electrical engineering. Stuff you'd learn in a physics class or a trade school, stuff about voltage, resistance, magnetic fields, and he is overlaying them directly onto ancient Quranic terminology.
Exactly. The central claim here is that these ancient terms weren't just poetic metaphors or spiritual vaguisms.
Right.
We tend to think ancient texts use words like light or fire because they didn't have better, more scientific words to describe God or the soul. But Dr. Waleed's argument is the opposite. He says they are precise technical descriptions of an energy system.
So he's saying the problem isn't the text, it's our reading of it. We lost the technical manual.
We lost the schematic. He suggests that if you look at the human being through this engineering lens, we aren't just creatures of flesh and blood. We are components in a universal circuit.
A universal circuit. So our mission today is to deconstruct the human being. We're going to take ourselves apart piece by piece, the iron, the magnetism, the electricity, the wires, to understand what Dr. Waleed calls the electromagnetic engineering of the human soul.
And a quick disclaimer before we flip the switch, so to speak.
Good one.
We are reporting directly on Dr. Waleed's framework. This is his model. It's a fusion of theology and physics that claims to turn faith into a geometric certainty.
Geometric certainty.
So whether you're a believer, a skeptic, or just an engineering nerd who likes to see how systems work, the internal logic of this model is something you really have to see to believe. It constructs a world where belief isn't a feeling, it's just another word for circuit integrity.
Circuit integrity, I love that. So let's jump into this 3D thinking framework. What exactly does he mean by drawing a perspective that hasn't been seen in centuries, because that's a huge claim.
It's a massive claim. Well, think about how we usually read religious texts. We read them on a page or on a screen. It's flat, it's two-dimensional, it's text. We interpret words based on linguistic history or cultural context.
It's a literary analysis.
It's a 2D experience, fundamentally.
Right.
We analyze the story. Dr. Waleed is saying, stop looking at the page and look at the physical world around you. His core argument is that the circle of creation, the cycle of how life is made and sustained, is identical to the energy circle, or the electrical circuits we use in our daily lives.
Identical, it's a strong word. I mean, usually we say analogous or symbolic.
He means functionally identical.
Yeah.
He posits that there's a fundamental symmetry in the universe. The same physical laws that make a fan spin or a light bulb glow are the very same laws that make a human being live.
So it's not a metaphor.
It's a mechanism.
Yeah.
He suggests we've been deprived of the beauty of these meanings for centuries because we stopped looking at the science behind the words. We treated the text as literature instead of what he claims it is, a technical manual.
That distinction, literature versus technical manual, is crucial. If I read a car manual like it's a poem, I'm going to have a very hard time fixing the transmission.
Precisely. You'll appreciate the beautiful language about the noble torque converter, but your car is still not going to move. And Dr. Waleed argues that humanity has been reading the manual like a poem.
We've been appreciating the rhythm but ignoring the schematics.
Exactly. He wants to put the schematic back on the table. He's trying to reverse engineer the human soul based on this manual.
So he's mapping the vocabulary.
Yes. He argues that when the Quran speaks of light or fire or clay, it's not trying to set a mood for a story. It's describing specific materials and energy states. It is, in his view, providing the bill of materials for the human machine.
A bill of materials. Wow. Okay, let's get to the core analogy because this is the anchor for the whole deep dive. The electric motor equals the human creature.
Yes, the human creature, specifically the combination of the human body and the energy forces that animate it.
I have to ask the obvious question. How can a person be a motor? I mean, I don't feel like I have a rotor spinning inside me. I eat food, I convert it to chemical energy through digestion. That feels more like a combustion engine, doesn't it? We burn fuel.
And that's the biological view, which he doesn't deny, but he's saying that's just one layer of the system. Let's look at what a motor actually is in its simplest engineering form. A motor isn't just a spinning thing, it's a converter.
Right. It converts one form of energy to another.
It takes electrical energy and converts it into kinetic energy into motion. To do that, a motor needs specific components. You can't just have electricity. It needs a structure for the electricity to flow through. You can't just have a structure. It needs a magnetic field to interact with.
Okay, I follow that. It's an interaction of forces. You need a setup, a whole system.
Dr. Waleed's breakdown is that a human being needs those exact same components to generate life. If you strip a human down to their fundamental essence, according to this model, you find the exact same parts list as you'd find in an industrial induction motor.
What's on the list?
He lists them out clearly. Iron, wires, magnetism, and electricity.
A parts list for a human. I love that. It demystifies the body in a way. It treats existence as an assembly problem.
It does. And if you have the wrong parts, or if you assemble them incorrectly, or if you're missing a part, the motor doesn't run. It's that simple. In this view, there's no magic to it. There's only correct engineering and incorrect engineering.
It's all about functionality.
Pure functionality.
So we are about to dismantle this human motor. Let's start with the hardware. That seems like the most solid place to begin. Section 2, the body and the iron.
Right. Every motor needs a frame, a structure. In engineering, this is often called the stator. It's the stationary part of the motor. It provides the physical structure, and crucially, it contains the material that interacts with magnetic fields.
And usually that's made of metal, heavy stuff.
Specifically, iron.
Yeah.
Or a ferrous alloy. You need a ferrous material because it has specific magnetic properties. If you made a motor out of, say, plastic or wood, you could pump all the electricity you want into it and absolutely nothing would happen.
It wouldn't react.
It needs to be conductive, and more importantly, it needs to be magnetizable. It needs to be able to hold and shape a magnetic field.
Okay, so where does the human body come into this? How are we the iron?
Dr. Waleed points directly to the Quranic reference in Surah Ar-Rahman, which says, "Created man from clay like pottery."
Right, a very famous verse.
And traditionally, people imagine a potter at a wheel, shaping a vase. It's a very artistic, organic image. But Dr. Waleed says, stop thinking like an artist and start thinking like a chemist. What is in clay? What is in the earth?
Well, dirt, minerals, Silicon?
Iron. Iron is one of the most abundant elements in the Earth's crust. It's literally what gives red clay its color. Our own blood is iron-based hemoglobin. Our physical structure is, in his words, earthly material. So in this engineering model, the body is the iron. It is the hardware.
That puts a very different spin on the idea of being made of clay. It's not just about being fragile or humble. It's about being conductive. It's about being the right material for the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It reframes the entire purpose of our physical form. The implication here is fascinating. The body, this thing we spend so much time obsessed with at the gym or in front of the mirror, is just the stator. It is the static hardware.
It's the chassis.
It's the chassis.
Yeah.
And without the other components we're about to discuss, the body is just a statue. It's pottery. It contains the potential for movement, but it has absolutely no power of its own. It's inert.
It's like having a brand new Tesla sitting in the driveway, but there's no battery and no software. It's just a beautiful sculpture of metal and glass. It's not a car in the functional sense until it moves.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And Dr. Waleed emphasizes this point over and over. The body is the earth iron. It is the anchor. It grounds us to the physical realm. But a motor that doesn't spin is useless. It's just a lump of iron.
Right.
So to make it functional, we need to introduce the energy.
This also connects the physical to the spiritual in a way that makes the physical necessary. I feel like often, especially in, New Age circles or even in some forms of rigorous asceticism, people want to escape the body.
Right. The body is seen as a limitation, a cage.
Yeah. I am a spirit trapped in meat, that whole idea.
The ghost in the shell. But Dr. Waleed's model says, no, you need the iron. You cannot have an electric motor without the iron core. The magnetic field needs something to grab onto. It needs a medium to work through.
So if you didn't have the body, the spiritual energy would have no way to manifest motion in this dimension.
Precisely. The iron validates the existence of the flesh. It's not a prison. It's the medium. It's the necessary component for action in the physical world.
That is a profound shift. The body isn't a mistake or a punishment. It's the necessary conducting material.
Correct. And think about the properties of iron. It's hard. It's durable. But it's also highly reactive. It rusts if it's not cared for. It can be magnetized, but it can also be demagnetized if you heat it too hard or expose it to the wrong fields.
So the condition of the iron matters for the efficiency of the motor.
Tremendously. A rusty, cracked stator isn't going to perform well.
Okay, so the car is in the driveway. The iron is ready. This brings us to section 3, and I think this is where things get really, really wild. We're talking about the energy field, and specifically, we have to talk about the jinn.
Yes, this is where we leave the solid ground of iron and enter the invisible world of fields. This is the part that can be the hardest for people to get their heads around.
Now, in most Islamic traditions, and even in Western pop culture, jinn are these supernatural beings, right?
Oh.
Genies, spirits made of fire, living in a parallel dimension, sometimes messing with people. It's all very Arabian Nights.
That's the common understanding. But Dr. Waleed takes a very sharp turn here.
He does.
This is probably the most radical part of his entire theory. He looks at the source text from Surah Ar-Rahman again.
Yeah.
And he created the jinn from a smokeless flame of fire. The Arabic is marivan nar.
A smokeless flame of fire.
And Dr. Waleed looks at that phrase, smokeless fire, and asks, from a purely physics perspective, what is fire that has no smoke?
If I see fire without smoke, I'm thinking of a gas stove flame. Or a laser. Or maybe the heat coming off a radiator. You can't see it, but it's there.
Exactly. Heat, light, pure energy, plasma, radiation, invisible fields. In this framework, the jinn equals electromagnetic energy.
Wait, hold on. So when the Quran is talking about jinn, we aren't talking about ghosts or spirits in the traditional sense. We're talking about the electromagnetic spectrum.
In Dr. Waleed's model, yes, that is the mapping. He argues that jinn is the technical term for the invisible energy forces that power the universe. And he breaks it down into a specific formula, an equation. It's not just a blob of energy. It has structure and components.
Okay, lay it on me. What is the equation of life?
It's basically an addition problem. You have two primary components that make up this energy field. First, you have the nafs.
The nafs, usually translated as the self or soul.
Correct. In Dr. Waleed's engineering diagram, the nafs equals magnetism.
Magnetism. Okay. Why magnetism? What's the connection there?
Think about the qualities we attribute to the nafs, the self. It has desires. It has an ego. It pulls things towards it, or it pushes things away. It has an inherent polarity.
Attraction and repulsion.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed identifies this drawing power as the magnetic field. It shapes the environment around it. Just like a physical magnet has a field of influence that you can't see but can definitely feel, yourself, your nafs, has a field of influence.
It attracts what it wants and repels what it doesn't.
Precisely. It has a north and a south. It has an orientation. It's the personal shaping force.
And what's the second part of the equation?
The Ru, usually translated as spirit. In this model, the Ru equals electricity.
So soul is magnetism, spirit is electricity.
Correct. Now, in physics, when you combine magnetism and electricity, what do you get?
You get electromagnetism.
Which Dr. Waleed identifies as the jinn.
Whoa! Okay, let me just try to wrap my head around this for a second. So the jinn isn't some separate creature living in a lamp. It represents the active combined force of the soul and spirit, the magnetic and the electric, working together.
Yes, and consider the relationship between those two forces in a motor. A motor only works because of the interaction between an electric current and a magnetic field. That interaction creates torque. It creates rotational force.
That's what makes it spin.
That's what makes it spin, Dr. Waleed is saying. The human being works the exact same way.
So the life formula is human, which is the body iron, plus jinn, which is the energy field.
Exactly. Life, iron, plus electromagnetism. The source, as he interprets it, explicitly states the human is matter plus jinn, which is spirit and soul energy, life or movement.
That actually makes sense of the distinction between soul and spirit, which I've always found confusing. People use them interchangeably all the time. My soul feels tired, my spirit is crushed.
They do, but in theology, and as it turns out in engineering function, really matters. Think about it this way. The nafs, magnetism, provides the attraction and the direction. It gives the motor its character, its field of influence. But the Ru, electricity, that is the raw power, that is the current, the voltage, the juice. You can have a magnetic field, nafs, you can have that potential, but without the current Ru moving through it, there is no work done. The motor doesn't turn.
So the nafs is the personality, and the Ru is the power.
That's a great way to put it. And in the theological context, the Ru is often described as the command of God or the divine breath. It's the universal energy that animates. The nafs is the local individual field that shapes that universal energy.
So to go back to my Tesla analogy, the body is the car, the Ru is the electricity coming from the charging station. But what is the nafs in that scenario?
The nafs would be the car's internal circuitry and the magnetic coils within the motor that tell that raw electricity where to go and how to spin the wheels at a certain speed. Without the magnetism, the nafs, the electricity, the Ru, would just pass through or short out the system. You need the field to capture and direct the power.
The nafs is the interface.
It's the interface that turns raw power into specific personal motion.
This is starting to click. So the biblical or Quranic story of a spirit or soul entering the body is really just the description of the electromagnetic field activating the iron hardware.
Precisely. It's the mechanics of life. A human comes to life when this electromagnetic pairing enters the iron. Without it, we're just cold clay. Dr. Waleed puts it beautifully in his work. He says, the human doesn't move by his material self, but by the nafs, which acts as the magnetic field moving inside this iron mold.
It also reframes the idea of death. Death isn't the end of the biology, it's the extraction of the field.
Right. If you cut the power to an electromagnet, what happens? The iron goes back to being just iron. It loses its pull. It loses its life, so to speak.
Okay, so we have a body, which is the motor. We have the spirit and soul, which is the energy field. But in engineering, you can't just have energy floating around in the air hoping to get to the motor. It has to be delivered. You need wiring. You need infrastructure.
This is section 4, the circuitry. This is where the rubber meets the road, or more accurately, where the plug meets the socket.
This part really blew my mind because I've always thought of prayer in Arabic, salah, as this ritualistic thing. You know, you do it because you're supposed to. It's a duty. It's something you check off a list 5 times a day. But Dr. Waleed says, no, look at the word itself.
Right. Linguistic analysis is key here. He points out that the Arabic word salah shares a direct root with the word sila.
And sila means?
It means connection, link, or joint.
So salah equals the wires.
Yes. Dr. Waleed argues prayer is not just a chant or a series of movements. It is the physical copper wiring connecting the creature to the creator. In an engineering sense, you have a power source to the creator, and you have a load, the creature motor. If there's no wire between them, the motor is dead. Doesn't matter how powerful the source is.
So when you pray, you are effectively plugging the cable in. You are establishing the link.
You are establishing the sila. You are laying the transmission line. He actually says the electric wires correspond to the word salah. It's a direct one-to-one map. And think about the regularity of prayer in this context.
5 times a day.
Right. If you think of it as worship, it might sound like a lot of work, a heavy obligation. But if you think of it as recharging or maintaining the connection, it becomes operational. If you unplug your phone for too long, what happens?
It dies.
It dies. The system needs the cella. It needs the consistent flow of current to maintain its charge, to maintain its function.
But where does it plug in? Does the human body have a USB port I don't know about?
According to Dr. Waleed, yes. It has a specific terminal. And this is another instance where he maps the biology to the text. He points to the forelock, or in Arabic,
An-Nasiya.
the forelock. So, my forehead.
Specifically the area of the prefrontal cortex, the very front of the head.
But what's the source connection there? Where does he get that from?
The verse from Surah Hud. There is no moving creature, but he has grasp of its forelock.
Grasp of its forelock. I've read that before and just thought it meant, dominance or control, like grabbing a horse by the mane to lead it, a metaphor for divine control. And it does mean that, but Dr. Waleed reads it as an engineering schematic. The forelock is the terminal. It is the data and power entry point. If you look at any complex electric motor, there's a junction box where the external wires come in and connect to the internal windings. That is the Messiah.
That's fascinating because biologically, the prefrontal cortex is our executive center. It's where decision-making happens. It's where our will resides. It's where we process consequences and plan for the future. It's the part of the brain that, more than any other, makes us human.
Exactly. It's the control center. So it makes perfect sense that this would be the point where the divine supply, or the external power, connects to the internal system. It is the interface between the divine command and the human will. If you were going to plug a controller into a human, that's exactly where you'd put the port.
It reframes the brain not as the source of consciousness, but as the receiver of it.
Yes, the brain is the receiver. The forelock is the antenna or the port that receives the signal.
Okay, so we're plugged in, we have the motor, we have the energy, and now we have the wires connected to the terminal. But just because a lamp is plugged in doesn't mean it's on. I can plug my toaster in, but if I don't push the lever down, I'm not getting any toast.
Correct. The potential is there, but the circuit isn't complete. You need one more component. You need the switch.
And in this framework, the switch is Hidayah guidance.
Yes. Think about a simple circuit breaker or a wall switch. Its only job is to close the circuit. When the switch is open, in engineering terms, there's a physical gap, and electricity cannot flow across it. The light is off. When you close the switch, the two metal contacts touch, the path is complete, and the current flows.
So guidance isn't just about reading a book and feeling inspired. It's not just an intellectual aha moment.
No. In this model, guidance is the mechanical act of closing the electrical circuit. When God grants Hidayah, the switch flips to on-in. The circuit closes. The current from the source flows through the wire, prayer, enters the terminal, forelock, and the motor, body, starts to move correctly, according to its design.
That gives a whole new meaning to the phrase, seeing the light. It's literal voltage.
It connects the why to the how. Why do some people seem to have dead hearts, even if they're physically alive and well? Maybe the switch is off, the hardware is there, the power grid exists, but the circuit is open. The guidance hasn't connected the terminal to the source.
It makes the concept of Hidayah seem much more active and tangible. It's an event, a connection event, and it implies that you can't just will yourself to be guided. You need the switch to be flipped by an external force.
Dr. Waleed states it very plainly. Hidayah is the connecting of the electrical switch for the energy circuit. It's the moment the system goes live. Before that, you're just a machine that's been assembled but never turned on.
I want to talk about the path the electricity takes, because it's not just about the wire, it's about the quality of the wire. Section 5 talks about the transmission line, or the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path.
This is a phrase repeated in every single Muslim prayer, multiple times a day. Guide us to the straight path. It's absolutely central to the faith.
And in this engineering model, why does the path have to be straight? Is it just, aesthetic? Is it because straight implies moral rigidity or righteousness?
No, it's about efficiency and resistance. This is basic physics. In electrical engineering, the most efficient path for electricity, the path with the least resistance, is a direct line, a straight copper cable.
And if the wire is all coiled up or kinked, or if it meanders all over the place?
You get resistance. The electrons start to collide with the atoms of the wire more often. You get heat loss. You get inefficiency. The longer and more convoluted the wire, the more voltage drop you experience from one end to the other.
You lose power along the way.
You lose power. Dr. Waleed argues that the straight path acts as the perfect conducting cable. It connects the creator and the creature. Its function is to ensure the divine supply reaches the forelock terminal with maximum efficiency and zero resistance or interruption.
So deviating from the path isn't just breaking a rule or being naughty in a moral sense. It's creating electrical resistance in your own circuit.
Exactly. It's physics. If you increase the resistance in a circuit, you lose power. The motor slows down, it strains, the lights dim. And what happens when resistance gets too high in a circuit, or if the insulation breaks?
Things melt, you get a fire.
Things melt, you get a burnout. Dr. Waleed explicitly mentions safety mechanisms. He says the path ensures there is no short circuit. If the insulation breaks, if the path becomes crooked, the energy could become destructive. It can burn out the motor.
It's a safety feature. The straight path is the rated specification for the cable. It's the wire that's designed to handle the load.
Precisely. If you try to run a high-voltage industrial machine using a flimsy, crooked, uninsulated wire, you're going to have a fire. The Sirat is the heavy-duty, perfectly straight, perfectly insulated line designed to handle the divine current.
This makes the rules of religion feel less like arbitrary laws. You know, don't do this because I said so, and more like an operating manual. Don't bend the cable past 90 degrees or it will snap. Don't strip the insulation or you'll short out.
That's exactly Dr. Waleed's point. It's geometric certainty. The rules are there to maintain the integrity of the energy flow. If you view morality as a set of engineering specs, it stops being about guilt and shame and starts being about functionality and efficiency.
This brings us to section 6, which I found to be maybe the most practical application of this whole theory. Dr. Waleed analyzes the opening chapter of the Quran, Surah al-Fatiha, not as a prayer, but as a technical manual for operating this human machine.
It's a fascinating reading. He breaks it down verse by verse as if he's reading a GE turbine manual before turning it on. He calls it the physical analysis of the Fatiha verse.
Let's walk through it. It starts with the line, Alhamdulillah, all praise is due to Allah.
Okay, in this engineering reading, that translates to acknowledging the power source. Before you can operate any machine, you have to verify where the power is coming from. You check the grid. The motor, in this moment, recognizes, I cannot generate my own power. I am entirely dependent on the grid.
It's the system check. Power's available. You see the little green light turn on?
Right. Source identified. Step 1 complete.
Then comes the next part. Iyaka na'budu, you alone we worship.
Now, worship is a very loaded religious word. It implies rituals, bowing, chanting, a sense of subservience. But Dr. Waleed interprets it through the concept of servitude in a purely functional engineering sense.
Servitude can sound negative to modern ears. We value independence and autonomy above all else.
Think of it as a mechanical dependency. In engineering, a slave unit is one that perfectly follows the commands of the master controller. It's not about degradation, it's about synchronization and perfect function. We worship here translates to, we function according to your design.
So it's an admission of our own nature.
It's the motor saying, we are motors and we run on your program. If we try to run on our own program, we will crash the system. It's an admission of design. I am the machine, you are the operator.
I admit I am the hardware. That's a powerful idea. Okay, next is why Iyaka nasta'in, and you alone we ask for help.
His translation of this is a request for current and voltage. He links it to the Arabic concept of madad, which means spiritual extension or aid. The motor is saying, okay, I'm ready to run. I've acknowledged you're the source. I know I'm the machine. Now please keep the power flowing.
It's a continuous request for energy supply.
Yes. Don't cut the line. Keep the voltage stable. It's the juice that keeps the rotor spinning.
And finally, we get to the climax of the chapter. Idina as-sirat al-mustaqim, guide us to the straight path.
And this is the action item. His translation, flip the switch.
That's the click.
That is the critical moment of operation. You've acknowledged the source. You've admitted you are the hardware. You've asked for the power to be supplied. And now you say, close the circuit. Connect me via the straight insulated cable so I can run as intended.
It turns the prayer into a startup sequence. Check power, check connection protocol, request current, and then flip the switch.
It really changes the intent, doesn't it? It's not just asking for a vague favor. It's an operational requirement. If you don't flip the switch through this request for guidance, the motor just sits there. It might look like a motor, it might be perfectly assembled, but it's just a paperweight.
It's inert.
It connects the act of asking to the state of functioning.
It's interesting because usually in prayer, we ask for specific outcomes. You know, give me patience, or help me get this job, or give me a new car. But in this model, the foundational request is purely structural. Plug me in correctly.
Because the implication is that if you are plugged in correctly, everything else works as it should. The car of your life drives where it needs to go.
Yeah.
You don't need to ask for the destination every 5 seconds. You just need to ask for the current and the connection to get there. The system takes care of the rest.
But what happens when things go wrong? Because motors break, circuits fail. We see people who are broken all the time, spiritually, mentally, physically. Section 7 deals with troubleshooting the circuit.
Right. Because the verse in Al-Fatihah continues, right after asking for the straight path. It specifies to avoid the path of 2 other groups. Those who earned wrath, Maghdubi Alayhim, and the straying, Ad-Dalan. Dr. Waleed sees these not as moral judgments, but as 2 distinct types of engineering failures.
Let's look at the first one. Those who earned wrath. Sounds incredibly intense. What is the engineering equivalent of that?
Overload or short circuit?
Interesting. Why? What's the logic there?
Think about the word wrath. It implies heat, intensity, a violent and destructive energy. In an electrical system, if you pull too much current through a circuit, perhaps by following your desires or your ego, which acts like a demand for more power than the system is rated for.
What happens? The wires get hot, the insulation melts, you get sparks.
Exactly. You get a short circuit, the energy flows, but it flows uncontrollably. It bypasses the intended resistance, creates massive heat, and the motor burns out. In this model, these are people who might have had the connection, but they overloaded the system. They couldn't handle the voltage.
They blew a fuse.
Or they melted the windings of the motor itself. It's a high-energy failure. It's destructive. The connection exists, but it's a faulty, dangerous one.
And what about the second group? The straying, Ad-Dalan. That sounds less violent, more passive.
And the engineering equivalent reflects that. He maps it to a broken connection or an open circuit.
So not a burnout, but a complete disconnect.
Exactly. The wire is cut, the switch is permanently in the off position, the motor itself might be perfectly intact, the power plant is still generating electricity. But there is absolutely no connection between the two. The motor remains static. It is lost or straying because it isn't on the grid. It's just cold iron.
It's the difference between a dead battery and an exploding battery.
That's a perfect way to put it. Both are states of failure, but the mechanics of that failure are completely different. And Dr. Waleed emphasizes that understanding this distinction helps you fix the problem. It gives you a diagnostic path.
How do you fix them, according to the model?
Well, if you are in the state of straying, the open circuit, you need to find the wire, prayer, and plug it back in. You need to reestablish contact. You need to make this salai. If you are in the state of wrath, the short circuit, you need to reduce the load.
Turn down the power demand.
Turn down the ego, the desire.
Yeah.
You need to fix the insulation, which means recommitting to the straight path to stop the short circuit. You need to regulate the energy, not just connect it.
This is incredibly practical. Usually when people talk about sin or spiritual failure, it's very abstract. You've lost your way. But this says, no, check the voltage, check the connection, check the insulation on your wiring.
It makes it diagnostic. It allows you to troubleshoot your own soul as if you were an electrician troubleshooting a faulty appliance.
This brings us back to the necessity of the iron. We started with the body, and it feels like we're ending with the body. Dr. Waleed seems to really want to drive home this point that we shouldn't hate the body or see it as an enemy.
That's a crucial takeaway from his whole framework. So often in spiritual circles, there's this idea that the body is a prison. I need to escape this flesh to be truly spiritual. You hear about ascetics starving themselves or ignoring their physical needs to purify the soul.
Right, trying to get rid of the iron.
Exactly. And Dr. Waleed says, no, you need the iron.
Because you can't have a motor without the stator.
Exactly. You need the earth iron to be magnetized. Spirituality isn't about escaping the body. It's about properly magnetizing the iron of the body with the electric command of the spirit. The goal is a functioning machine, not a ghost floating in space. The purpose is movement in this world.
It validates our physical existence. We are here to be magnetized. We are here to move.
And that movement is worship. That functionality is the purpose. The iron is just as holy as the electricity, because without the iron, the electricity has no form, no function, no way to act in this reality.
This has been honestly a little electrifying, pun intended. It really forces you to rethink the entire vocabulary you use for spirituality. It moves faith from the abstract to the concrete.
It does. It removes the ambiguity and replaces it with physics.
Let's zoom out for the outro. We've covered a lot of ground. I want to make sure everyone has the schematic clear in their heads before we power down.
A good idea. Let's recap the universal circuit one last time for the listener.
Okay, I'll try to run the specs. Correct me if I'm wrong. The body is the iron hardware.
Hit it.
The nafs, the soul or self, is magnetism.
Right. The field.
The ruh, the spirit, is electricity.
The current.
Together they make the jinn, which is the electromagnetic field.
Perfect. And to run this system, Salah, prayer, is the wire.
The connection.
Hidayah, guidance, is the switch.
The on button.
The forelock is the terminal.
The input port.
And the straight path is the transmission line.
It's a complete, self-contained system, and the big picture here, derived from Dr. Khaled Waleed's work, is that faith is not blind. He calls it scientific geometry.
And it completely changes how you view a verse like Yaka Nabudu, you alone we worship. It stops being a humble chant and becomes a statement of fact.
Like a machine reading its own specs.
Exactly. I am a motor, you are the generator. I function only because of you. It is a statement of functional dependency on a power grid. It's not emotional, it's structural.
It removes the emotion from it in a way that actually makes it more powerful.
Yeah.
It's just physics.
The divine physics, as he would put it.
Right. Now, before we let you go, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. We've talked about the motor running, we've talked about the switch being on, but think about this. If you are an electric motor and yourself, your personality, your memories, your desires, your entire you-ness is just the magnetic field of the nafs holding it all together, what happens when the plug is pulled?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it?
When the electricity from the ruh, the spirit, is finally cut off at the moment of death and the motor stops spinning, what happens to the magnetism? Does that field, that personal signature you've spent your whole life building, simply dissipate into nothingness, like a magnet losing its charge?
Or does something else happen?
Or does that magnetic pattern, that unique signature of you, return to the source along with the electricity?
There's a principle in physics, the conservation of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just changes form. If the soul is a field, well, fields don't just vanish, they carry information.
So the question to mull over tonight is, are you building a magnetic field that can survive the unplugging?
A field that holds its shape, that has a coherent pattern. It's a heavy thought.
It is. If you want to see the diagrams, and trust me, the visuals really help clarify all of this, you absolutely need to check out Dr. Khaled Waleed and his channel Almighty Covenant, or Mithaq al-Khaliq, on YouTube. Seeing the schematics he draws makes it all click into place.
Highly recommended. The 3D models he uses really bring it home.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Keep your circuits clean, check your wiring, and we'll see you next time.
Stay connected.